Imagine if one man was responsible for so much death that the earth itself began to recover. Forests grew back. Farmland disappeared. Carbon levels dropped. Entire civilizations vanished from maps. And yet, most people don't realize that this same man started life as a starving child abandoned in the wilderness. A child who watched his father die. A child who saw his family betrayed. A child who should have disappeared into history. Instead, he became Genghis Khan, the most successful conqueror who ever lived. But this story isn't really about a conqueror. It's about something far more disturbing. It's about what happens when human ambition is unleashed without limits. And why, 800 years later, his shadow may still be living inside all of us. The year was 1162. The world was divided. Empires rose and fell. Kings fought kings. Civilizations fought civilizations. But far away from the great cities, on the endless grasslands of Mongolia, life followed a different set of rules. There were no walls, no permanent homes, no safe borders, only survival. And survival was brutal. The boy who would become Genghis Khan wasn't born into certainty. He was born into chaos. His original name was Temujin. Before he was feared by continents, he was simply another child among rival tribes. Then everything changed. When Temujin was still young, his father was poisoned by enemies. Suddenly, the protection of family disappeared. His tribe abandoned him. His mother, his brothers, his sisters, they were left alone to starve. Imagine that moment. One day you belong. The next day you are nothing. No army, no wealth, no future, just endless grassland and the slow approach of death. Many people would have broken. Temujin became something else. And this is where the story starts becoming strange. Because the experiences that should have destroyed him became the foundation of everything he would later become. Every betrayal became a lesson. Every humiliation became fuel. Every weakness became something he swore never to feel again. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what he learned about human nature. He learned that loyalty could disappear overnight. That power mattered more than fairness. That survival often belonged not to the kindest people, but to the strongest. Those lessons never left him. As Temujin grew older, Mongolia remained divided into countless tribes. Each tribe fought the others. Alliances formed. Alliances collapsed. Friends became enemies. Enemies became allies. Violence was everywhere. But Temujin noticed something others didn't. The tribes weren't weak because they lacked warriors. They were weak because they lacked unity. And so he began doing something revolutionary. Instead of building loyalty around family bloodlines, he built loyalty around merit. If you were capable, you could rise. If you were loyal, you could gain power. It sounds normal today. Back then, it was radical. Slowly, people followed him. Then more followed. Then entire tribes followed. And before anyone realized what was happening, Temujin wasn't just surviving anymore. He was becoming a force. In 2006, the tribes gathered. A decision was made. Temujin would receive a new name, a new identity, a new destiny. Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. But names have power, and this name would soon become one of the most feared sounds in human history. Because once Mongolia was united, there was only one direction left to go, outward, toward the rest of the world. And this is where everything changed. Most conquerors wanted territory. Most kings wanted wealth. Most rulers wanted prestige. Genghis Khan wanted something bigger. He wanted momentum. His empire became a machine that never stopped moving. Cities fell. Kingdoms collapsed. Armies vanished. One after another. Again and again. People heard stories long before they saw his soldiers. Stories of entire populations disappearing. Stories so terrifying they sounded impossible. And that was part of the strategy. Fear became a weapon. Sometimes the reputation arrived before the army. Sometimes fear alone achieved what battles could not. But here is the unsettling twist. The Mongols weren't merely savage destroyers. They were astonishingly effective. They communicated faster than most civilizations. They moved faster than their enemies. They adapted faster than rival armies. What looked like chaos was often precision. What looked like brutality was often calculation. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. The same empire that spread destruction also connected worlds. Trade expanded. Ideas traveled. Technologies spread. Cultures that had rarely interacted suddenly became linked. The empire destroyed barriers, literally and figuratively, which raises a disturbing question. How can one person be responsible for both catastrophe and connection? For devastation and innovation? For death and progress? The answer may reveal something uncomfortable about history itself, because history rarely separates heroes from villains as neatly as we want. At its peak, the Mongol Empire became the largest contiguous land empire in human history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean toward Europe. Millions lived under its shadow. Millions died because of its expansion. Entire regions were transformed forever, and yet numbers don't fully capture the reality. The true impact was psychological. Imagine hearing that an army is coming, an army that has never been defeated, an army whose victories seem almost supernatural, an army whose leader appears unstoppable. At some point, people stop fighting reality. They surrender to it. That is what power becomes at its highest level. Not force, expectation. When people believe resistance is impossible, resistance begins to disappear. And Genghis Khan understood this better than almost anyone. He conquered minds before he conquered cities. But eventually, even the greatest conquerors face a problem. The horizon keeps moving. No matter how much land you gain, there is always more. No matter how much power you accumulate, there is always another frontier. No matter how much fear you inspire, mortality remains undefeated. And mortality was coming. In 1227, Genghis Khan died. The details remain mysterious. Some accounts conflict. Some stories sound legendary. Some sound ordinary. Perhaps that's fitting, because after transforming half the known world, even his death became a mystery. But what happened next may be even stranger. He died. The empire did not. His momentum survived him. His descendants continued expanding. His influence kept spreading. The man disappeared. The machine remained. And this is where the story stops being about Genghis Khan. Because the real question isn't how one man conquered so much territory. The real question is why humans remain fascinated by people like him. Think about it. 800 years later, we still remember his name. Most peaceful rulers are forgotten. Most ordinary lives disappear. But conquerors remain immortal. Why? Perhaps because they reveal something we don't like admitting. Human beings are drawn to power. Even when power frightens us, we admire dominance. Even when dominance destroys, we fear ambition, yet we secretly respect it. Genghis Khan forces us to confront a contradiction buried deep within human nature. We celebrate compassion, but history remembers conquest. We praise humility, but the world often rewards relentless ambition. And maybe that's why his story survives. Not because he was uniquely monstrous, not because he was uniquely brilliant, but because he exposed tendencies that already existed inside humanity. He simply amplified them to a scale the world had never seen before. Today, the Mongol Empire is gone. Its borders vanished. Its armies disappeared. Its banners turned to dust. But the forces that created it never left. The hunger for power, the desire for significance, the fear of weakness, the need to matter. Those forces still shape nations, companies, leaders, and ordinary people. Genghis Khan conquered more land than any person in history. Yet even he could not conquer time. His cities faded. His empire fractured. His body vanished. Like every human before him. Like every human after him. And perhaps that's the final irony. The most powerful conqueror who ever lived spent his entire life taking possession of the world, only to leave it with nothing. The question isn't whether Genghis Khan changed history. The question is whether history keeps creating people like Genghis Khan. Because somewhere deep inside human nature, we still haven't conquered the same impulses that created him in the first place.